which will grasp the attention of the editor and also the reviewer. So it gives a positiveness to the reviewer. For me, when I see this title, oh, it looks really interesting. Let me accept this abstract and let me go for review. Something like that, right? Making dissertation publishable. In India, we have a lot of institutions with the postgraduate program. A lot of research is coming every year, day in and day out. But how many of them are really getting into the good publications in good channels, which will credit to the author, I mean the researcher and the faculty and the department and overall the university, school and the university, college and the university as a whole. So most dissertations in a study, it was noted that most dissertations, even in abroad, not only in our countries, side, but even in abroad, most dissertations are never published, and some dissertations do not appear publishable at all. So we need to think why it is not. It doesn't hold the value. What is that missing in that? So planning for a publishable dissertation is a crucial thing we need to think over and make it merit for everyone. So the mistake we do is like we always view the dissertation or the student views the dissertation as an exercise or a learning experience during the program. It's like, a learning experience, how to do research. No. Here, in the dissertation, when we are contemplating the study research, the human subjects are involved very often, right? Apart from lab studies. So they are involved, and many hours of faculty time and student time is invested in the whole process. So the project must have a meaningful, publishable contribution. If there is no meaning in that, then there is no point in doing just for the sake of requirement. Already you are spending time for that. So we make sure we take an extra mile to do that. And the main problem probably in all the dissertation, most of the dissertation is poorly implemented designs, or you produce a predictable, well-known findings. Again, it goes back to the same question, outdated data or outdated, concepts. So with this focus, my focus is to have the young researchers how to get into these small studies or dissertations they do for a better writing and publishable units. Now, when we say try better writing, so as we know, all of us are non-native English speakers, right? And when our script goes to an English-speaking person, definitely, their standard of level of understanding the English and the grammatical contemplations, especially the active voice and passive voice and direct speech, everything matters actually. So every article, if you read about, how to write a better article, you'll see you write in active voice. Sometimes in some aspects, they say write in passive voice, something like that. So grammatically, we need to be very accurate and precise as any precision material. Okay. So if, for example, if you do a study, if you conduct a study, and if no one is able to read about it, is it going to make an impact? If you have a wrong English or wrong language, it's not going to make an impact. The answer would be resounding no. It's not going to make an impact. Now, writing is what makes science real and usable to others, right? We need to accept that fact. You've done excellent research, excellent study, everything is done meticulously, and even though the study could be a very simple concept, but it's the need of the hour. And if you're not able to produce in writing, you're not able to showcase that, that's a grave discrepancy there. So we need to overcome that. And especially in this fierce, I would say fierce academic competition now, so fierce that we have been hearing this word, publish or perish, right? This mantra, you can say, publish or perish. It applies to every level, even for a small student, a student who is pursuing a study, or to the faculty who is pursuing a study, or even for the institutional level, publish or perish. Institution look for good, in-text journals so that to increase the star rating, right? That's how we support the institution. That's our commitment and involvement as well. So it starts from the ground level. Institutions setting up avenues to train the students, train the faculty, every aspect, and we put our heart to do the research. Ultimately, it's going to the top level to raise your value. Your institution is growing, you are growing, in fact. So now, as a young researchers, these habits, it's very demanding. Good, right? I mean, developing good writing habits. So, For example, if you see the influential articles, when I say influential articles which have sites more than 100 or 1000, you will see the component. If you read some articles which are having really 1000 citations, for example, articles in Lancet and everything, Lancet in Nature journals, you'll see they have a positive writing component. They always write with the reader in mind. So that's the knowledge as well, the skill we need to develop. How to write the reader in mind, not ourselves in mind. That's a mistake we make everywhere. So let's get on with some cues how to eliminate this, something which is clogging our mind, and how to get better at that. So before going on to that, let me describe some of the poor manuscript etiquettes. Okay. One is that the first thing is take the lazy route and plagiarize. No more acceptable. It's a very serious research integrity issue. Plagiarize. Your entire career can be, really. Uh, your entire career can be really. Sorry, can you switch off your mic? Somebody is speaking. Yeah, okay. So take the lazy route and plagiarize. So it's a very serious offense actually. So you need to be very mindful. When the article reaches the journal, the first thing they do is they check with the Authenticate software or other software from Turnitin. They check whether there is plagiarism issues or not. Right. So if there is there, then they're going to blacklist your name. Right, that is happening actually. As a reviewer, I can share with you, so you need to be mindful of that. Second thing, refuse to read the previous literature published in your research. You're writing a paper, but you're not reading properly the subject, the work, all the work which has gone before, and you're missing in that part, and only you are focusing on your self-imposed dictions to the script. It's a very important thing. You need to acknowledge and disrespect previous publications. Never, cannot do that. If you miss it, the reviewer is going to find out. Okay, you have missed those important publication, and that will be a very strong clause for, even though the research is good, strong clause for rejection or go for major revision, right? And disregard guidelines to authors. So if you disregard the guidelines to authors, for example, I can share my experience. Whenever I get an article, first thing I'll see is I'll go to the reference. I'll just see how much Intuiti or the authors are focused on preparing the reference section, whether they have put the proper full stops then and there, whether they put the colon properly, whether they have put the semicolon properly, whether they have put space between the semicolon and the number, whether there is capitalization for the first word, whether the authors are properly represented, conforming to the guidelines of the journal, right? All these things matter. So it gives a clue actually whether the author is really focused on this precision things, because it's really competitive to even to accept the journal. 10 articles out of 10 articles, maybe I'll accept 1 or 2 at the most. So that's the state of affairs. So this, I don't want this reference to give a bad impression, right? So I'm just sharing with you this important point. Never disregard the last reference section. Okay, I'll come to this point later a while. Okay, good manuscript etiquettes. One of the good manuscript etiquette is always, always remember your reader. As I told you earlier, always remember your reader. So when you want to remember in what sense you are looking into it. For example, the reader is, or the reviewer or editor in that, for that matter, they're going to read the abstract. Okay, after title, they're going to read the abstract. So the key points in abstract is very important. If it is not clear or interesting, no one is going to read further. No one will read further, right? That's very important. Abstract should be crisp and, very clear. And second thing you need to ask, okay, you have formulated abstract. As a reader, you need to think what the reader is going to expect, or what am I about to read, right? So I, as a general reader, I'll say, okay, abstract is good. So what am I going to read? So that comes in introduction. It puts you in perspective. Okay, this is what I'm going to read. So the introduction should lay the groundwork actually. It should have a proper groundwork, no overburden. If you see the yesteryear articles, few years back articles, the introduction will be very lengthy, right? It will be very lengthy. But now if you see, they are crisp and short. Maybe I can quote an analogy here. When we were growing up, Me and Dr. Sumit and everybody was growing up. We had this cricket test match and one-day matches. We used to sit relaxedly and watch the test match. And one day with little bit of anxiety and stress, we used to watch the test match. Then after that came the T20. So now T20 is the call, right? Everybody loves the T20. Why they love? They just want the information crisp and clear in a short time. Whatever they want to, enjoy that moment, they're doing that. Same thing goes with publication also. You don't want to clog so many things in the introduction. It needs to be precise. You check all the papers currently coming, everything will be not more than 3 paragraphs. So to put that telegraphic concept into the introduction, it needs quite a lot of skill into that, right? We'll see that Casper rule later, how to put the introduction in a sequential stages. So third thing, second thing, writing and rewriting, playing the peer reviewer game, right? Writing and rewriting, there's quite an important concept, writing and rewriting. Always when you start writing, we are mired with, or we're clogged with our own concepts, staying on to that. Sometimes we are not able to reflect upon ourselves, what we have written, and it's hard for us to, even for me as an author, if I write continuously for a few days, then next day I'm not able to really find out where I'm lacking or something like that. That you call that, it gets blocked. So whenever you write, you be aware of each word forming a sentence, and each sentence forming a paragraph, and each paragraph forming a section. It goes like that. Every word needs to be checked. So when you're doing that, you're actually editing, reading, editing, reading, editing, reading, editing, reading. Goes on, doesn't stop there until you get really a good output. Okay, and and every time I have also found that when you read or edit in a different location, you do in your home at one particular area, and maybe after 1 week you read again in another area, it will give a different perspective to the whole lot of work you have done, and how you can refine your writing. And also uh, and also not only the location, the time point also matters. You write, you finish your script, everything, then don't immediately send to the journal in a hurry. No, always put it at rest, keep it for 10-15 days aside, don't do anything. Just think like the website has closed or something like that, and be happy with that. And then you see after 15 days again, you read the script, you'll find some small errors, or some perspectives can be changed in the write-up, which will help. Definitely is going to help. The third important very good manuscript etiquette is, do not give up. Do not give up. I have faced myself lot of rejections, and some acceptance, hardly first time acceptance. And it's been for a while, more than 4 or 5 years, I have not directly, first go, never got accepted, or never got accepted. It's all of rejections, then again trying to another genre, something like that goes on. The continuum goes on. So what I would like to see myself, or like as a young researcher in you, do not lose confidence. One thing is important. The reviewers are generally not as knowledgeable as you. The work is done by you. You are the sole authority, right? You can really, it's just how you translate your authority, the domains, everything what you've got into the write-up. That's where something is lagging. That's where we actually miss some point. That I'm realizing that even with some experience, I'm still learning. And it's a learning process. It's a steep learning curve is there actually. So if you will be lucky one time, first time you got accepted with some minor revisions, but not necessarily every time. Don't think as a discouraging unit, but that's the state of the affairs, and that's a practicality. We need to accept and we need to move forward. It should not be a discouraging moment. Okay, so this is one of the study published in nursing journal. Like for example, they found that the writing with the reader in mind. If you really see here, the the articles which have got more citations, right, more than 100 citation, most of them, 74% of them is written in with the reader in mind, and they are also high impact journals, right? So you can actually locate, if you can conspire all these thoughts into your mind and write the script with the reader in mind. And again, tell you, it's easy for me to tell, but it needs to be experienced and work out, and a lot of exercises there to do that, to get the best impact possible to your research. So abstract, when you see the abstract, I'll just go a snippet of all these things. So abstract, you just need to, is it really a summary? Does it include the key findings? Or you need to check, is it an appropriate length, something like that. There are a few individual journals will have different requirements, but some things are common. Like for example, the voice here, active voice. For example, some researchers showed previously that smoking can lead to lung cancer. But the passive voice is usually we write like this. It was previously demonstrated that lung cancer can be caused by smoking. Now, the better version of English here is the active voice. Researchers showed previously that smoking can lead to cancer. So this we are always used with this passive voice style, every time when we see. But when you give an active voice, it connects to the reader and it goes for a persuasion to make the reader read your article, right? So that kind of energy is needed over there. So introduction, I was telling, right, how to, the cricket analogy I gave to crisp everything. So the move one always, whenever see a introduction in any good publication, you'll see this territory, establishing the territory, the groundwork over there, establishing importance of the topic, reviewing your previous work or others' previous work. Okay, this is where you stand. The first para will go like this. Second para mostly identifying a niche in sense indicating a gap in the knowledge. Okay, you need to indicate there. The reader needs to know. Okay, why am I reading this? Right, what I am about to read. Right. So something is missing. Oh, all these researchers have done this, but something is missing here, and this researcher wants to do on that, or he wants to study on that, or he has studied on that. So that puts everything into perspective, right? Then he goes on reading the occupying the niche, that is listing the, you are going to list the hypothesis and the statement, why you are going, what is the purpose of the study, all those things. This is famously called as CARS model, create a research space. Okay, so this is about introduction. And this is one of the most challenging aspect of the part of the paper. And I mean, some of the things I already discussed here. I mean, we need to ask ourselves these questions: why, how, and does. Okay, why well-written interest set the tone for the paper and catch the reader's interest. Everything going again and again towards the readers, context only, and how it's going to be effective. All those things. Okay. Now, maybe I would like to put here, like I would like to show this website. This is one of the very good website. Many thanks to this person, John Morley, from the University of Manchester, and he has made it available free of cost. This website. It's a splendid. It's really wonderful, especially for non-native English speakers. Okay, for us to see, and every aspect. If you see the tagline here, introducing your work, referring to sources, describing methods, reporting results, and discussing the findings and writing conclusion. Every aspect of an article, he has given some guidelines how to frame the sentences. Okay, it takes a little bit of exercise. I would say once you are done with the manuscript, once you have written the manuscript before sending to journal, you see this website and see whether you can revise. Not in the first go. Okay, if you're checking this website and seeing arranging the context or the write-up based on the whatever the website is telling, then it becomes a little you know, uh, not tidy. It's very difficult to complete later. So probably you give your effort properly arranging everything, all those things, then finally go to the website, then you can really make a better contribution to the clear writing. Okay, so now it looks like this. For example, the you can write like this: the figure 1 presents the summary statistics for. The figure 1 provides an overview of. So the language what they are using, right, that matters. Where you want to tell show, where you want to tell compare, where you want to note present, where you want to note provide. Just a guideline. We have a whole lot of arena to experiment ourselves and expand the horizon here, but still it gives an outline. For example, the pie chart above shows. Okay, some of the main characteristics of the breakdown of something like that. Top half of the table shows the breakdown of something like that. So these are different ways of writing the tabulation or the result part, something like that. So the result part can be written like this. When you want to project, okay, results of the results of the correlation analysis, the themes identified in these responses are set out in table 1. So you see the language or set out in table 1 or presented in table 1 can be compared in figure 1, something like that. So it's a very useful website, actually speaking. So maybe one important thing, one message or one benefit you get this out of this webinar, I would request the young researchers to go to this website and learn some concepts into that. And okay, so writing conclusions. Am I audible, Sumit?
You're audible. You're audible.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Your screen slightly went off. Okay, now it's okay. So the writing conclusions. Um, can you switch off the mic? Yeah. So writing conclusions, you have like this, this study is set out to something like that. So I just picked up certain things. It's a big document. If you see the PDF version, it's a very big document. Each and every aspect can be explored. Okay. Now, you must be knowing, whoever submitted the journal, you must be familiar with this term ICMJE, right? International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. So they have the guidelines actually, and most of the journals today, they follow their regulations and guidelines. Okay, you will see invariably in all the guidelines to authors, quoting reference to this particular organization. Okay, and they have their own, principle to how to formulate the title page abstract. So as a beginner, I would request everyone to go to this website. It gives a very clear information and to formulate the manuscript. So it does the conflict of interest disclosure form. So currently all the journals, most of the journals actually in the industry journals and medical journals, they follow this conflict of interest disclosure forms. And another important resource from NLM, PubMed, is this title, Citing Medicine, second edition. Okay, this also gives, I told you the references where I look, where the reviewers look, right?
Hello.
Where the reviewers look, right? So this Citing Medicine has got whole lot of, if you check in the PubMed, you'll get the full details, each and every aspect, how the simple article needs to be quoted, how the conference proceeding needs to be quoted, how the opinion pieces, personal opinion needs to be quoted, how the digital media needs to be quoted, how the advertisement needs to be quoted, how a digital or online article, everything is still clearly explained, and it matters. Okay, we just cannot put some reference and get away with that, because it's going to give a very bad impression. So this is another important resource to look after. Then the cover letter, most of the time we ignore this fact, we ignore this cover letter, we just write something, but this is the cover letter which is going to go for the editorial office. Okay, the editor is going to see, or the associate editor is going to see. Doesn't come to the reviewer, but it's to the editor or the associate editor or the section editor. So there are different formats to write the cover letter. Usually I do like this. I put my name, then the editor's name, then the date, then dear so and so, I am pleased to submit an original article entitled this thing for consideration of publication in the journal. Okay, the interest and stimulate to undertake this study. Okay, why? You need to put that why over there to get the attention of the editor. Okay, so again, you are going to next level. In this manuscript, we quantify, we assess, we have done this thing, something what is done in the study. You're going to give a short summary. It will not be very lengthy. Okay, just a precise one sentence composition over there. So this manuscript has not been published. It's not under consideration of public. You need to give this. Another important mistake what some people can do, sending the manuscript to 2 or 3 journals. And I can assure you, I can tell you, same reviewer will be seeing sometimes the same article. I've experienced that myself. So never do that. If the reviewer writes back to the editor, then you are blacklisted. Okay. So this is one of the important policy of the journal, and that too in these competitive times. So that's one thing. You need to disclose that you are not sent to other journals, and there is no conflict of interest to disclose. If there is a conflict of interest, you need to indicate here. Okay, there's nothing wrong in disclosing the conflict. There are guidelines to do that. So maybe if there is a conflict to, for example, the commissioning editor may be sending some articles to the same journal. So they will put there is a conflict of interest there. So it's up to the editor to look into that fact. Okay, so cover letter is important. And okay, so coming to mind your reference again, getting back to the references, cite the main scientific publication on your work is biased. So when you're putting the references, maybe when you're doing the dissertation or research, you'll have a lot of references, right? When we do that review, the review part, you get a lot of references, but you need to pick which are more important and more relevant to the context, right? So that's very important. And sometimes we see a lot of references going on here and there, which is totally non-contextual and not related to study at all. So you ensure you fully understand the material you're referencing and that it's supposed to work in the way you think it does. And keep self-citations very, very important. Okay, you've done, say for example, I've done research in particular field. I've got 4 or 5 studies. Again, the next study is similar to the same concept, but at a different perspective. So I cannot put everything my articles to get a better citation for my, that gives again bad impression. If it is really contextual, okay, but it should not be just like that. Your name needs to be there in the reference so that you get no, you get your H index increased because of that. Okay, maybe you can look how the H index is calculated. You need to avoid that, and excessive citation needs to be avoided. So lens of a reviewer, critically read your completed manuscript with the lens of a reviewer. So the message here is, whenever you are writing a manuscript, you behave like you are a reviewer and you are starting to review your own script, and that comes with some kind of mental cognizance, and it's a poorly written scripts or grammatical errors, whatever we have discussed here. And another important thing, seek informal review from an experienced colleague. Okay, this is very important, which we miss actually. Sometimes we don't do that. So it's better always take your time, take their time, actually take help from them, your colleague or from other department, even some other field. Okay, not even related to your particular specialty, even a medical person who can read and see the flow of the script, that will be very helpful. So always have a challenge test. Ask, so what, why should anyone read your writing? Very important question you need to ask yourself. Why? If I made a publication, if I've written a manuscript from a survey, you need to think how it's going to help the readers, right? That's the most important point. So some of the things what I experience is, when I want to write to the editor, I'll be telling, okay, insufficient statistical, one of the important things, sample size, whether we are having adequate sample size. We cannot take shortcuts in that. We cannot take shortcuts. It will be identified by the journal. We cannot put some effect size and calculate. No, it needs to be very authentic and personalized to that study. So insufficient statistical power and topic not in there. So many things are there. Avoid black lens spelling errors. All those things needs to be avoided. Poor statement of hypothesis. So it's it's like burning the midnight oil. Writing a script, not an easy task at all. The person who writes, he knows the heaviness and work really put into that, and he becomes the first author. Of course, the person who writes becomes the first author. So I'm not going to the authorship controversies and details here. So the one of the you must have heard of this expression: "Can't see the wood of the trees." So what do you see that reviewers always the author, the manuscript writer, he always looks his script as a tree. Okay, he's looking at the script as a tree, but the reviewer is actually parachuting inside. Okay, he's going and seeing whether it has got the wood in it. So what is a reviewer looking for? We need to see from your manuscript. This all happens after formulating a draft version. Okay, when you formulate a script conforming to the guidelines, then you look whether what is the reviewer going to look in your script, right? So usually, as I review a journal, probably the first reading, for example, Dr. Sumit has sent me an article. I'm going to, on the first reading, I see the abstract, and abstract is okay. I accept the submission, submission to the editor that I'm going to review. Then I do the first reading. So I just look for a bird's eye view, like there is a problem with the data science, that problem with ethics also I'll check, integrity issues. Okay, problem with the presentation, spelling and errors are there. Second reading, I don't directly, we don't usually directly go for rejection or major revision. Second time, again, I read the same principle after a few days, again reading. That's where you're actually getting into the core matter, subject matter. Is the research original, novel, and important to the field? This is the main question we'll be asking. And the editor's comments will be like, it will be always in for which the author is not able to see. So, but it will be very specific to the editor based on editor's checklist. So whatever the criticism or, positive points, I'll be noting to the editor, clearly telling, okay, this is a novel idea worth inviting major revision. Right? See comments to authors. Why I wrote these major revisions, I'll be giving details to the authors. So editor will have a checklist like this. For example, is the English satisfactory? Number 6 point. Is the English satisfactory? So some kind of they'll have the originality, whether there is originality, or the reviewer checklist actually this one. So reviewer as a reviewer, different journals will have different checklists. AJO will have, American Journal of Orthodontics will have a different checklist than the Anglo Orthodontics. So something like that. How is the originality, scientific quality, significance of findings? So these are the originality comes here. Nothing, anything. If something is not original, it's not going to merit at all. No point in doing this study at all. Right? So authors also, you have some ground rules how we describe to the authors. Okay, I'm not going to this. So ultimately, we give major or minor revisions. Okay. Why there is a major revision and minor revision. Again, you need to check the revision does not guarantee a publication. Okay, does not guarantee a publication. Okay, now the final topic of this webinar is about institutional and researcher collaboration. I was talking about collaborating with the institutions, collaborating with the different authors, and from different universities. When you have a good idea, okay, this is the idea I want to do research, and you need a proper backup plan. You need a proper backup. You need to research that concept and see who are all doing. Somebody is doing a related topic. You need to contact them, and if they respond to you for some collaboration, it helps for funding. Okay, funding is very important. And okay, so as a university, the university need to have a research from the university's perspective, if you can say, research intensive environment, right? So there should be a rigorous instruction, research design and methods, first of all, to all the faculty and students. Exposure to large projects in progress, always multi-centric. We have a lot of institutions in India. You can have multi-center projects, and the students needs to be exposed to that multi-centric trials and projects, which gives a perspective to them as they grow up into this academic world, and a culture in which publication is expected and demonstrated. To get that culture going on, which can be, demonstrated, and faculty with strong experience in peer review and publication also matters. And then, as a researcher, as a young researcher, if you can say you have another 10, 15, 20 years of research, workplace, we need to find research niche or research areas. Okay, we need to find a topic or something which you can do research in continuum. Okay, continuum. You stop or you do one research, then you stop and go to another topic. It's going to waste your time. So you pick some particular topic and you see, okay, this topic is a really hot topic and not much things have been studied here. Maybe that's the area you can select yourself. Stay away from crowded or overly competitive areas again. Look at the most promising research and assess you see whether it can make an impact. And look at the other players and judge whether you can compete. Very important. I'm not telling in a wrong sense that you want to compete with others, something like that. But look at the other players. Okay, this particular university in Germany is doing this particular research. So whether your research, what you're going will be, meeting the standards, and it can stand time, whether it can match with their time point, everything. So all those things matter because you should not go official and you should not go, rudimentary. Right. So some of the areas the institution can have kind of research areas or research clusters, you'd say, in each aspect, particular speciality, the institution can choose particular areas where people can explore further and do research. For example, lab science, for example, population studies. That can be a research area. So all population related studies can be grouped together to form a unit, to form a faculty development area, and people can work on that. Something, those are research clusters. Now the hurdles for mainly for academic research environment could be the openly we can tell the lure of salaries offered by the clinical practice and industry that are higher than those available to individuals pursuing a research academic career, right? It's quite obvious. People who are in practice, maybe the salaries are very high than a person who is in academic field. But it's up to us to have a professional enlightenment, and research is a better place to do that. Right? Administrative demands associated with academic research area. So all these things we need to get equipped with that. As a young researchers, we need to be facing this, and we need to accept this and go forward. And reduction in funding available for us, we need to be mindful. Funding is not that easy. The demands that an academic research career places on work-life balance, that's also very important. We're spending a lot of time, a lot of time writing and exploring the things, right? It's not like you see a patient, your patient is done with the restoration, everything, then you get charged for this. No, not like that. You're going to spend a whole lot of time into that. A lack of well-trained and well-supported mentors in academia also one of the hurdle. We need that, and maybe that could be one of the biggest aspiration for young researchers to take your stand on doing that kind of exposure to this kind of research and publishing. Another important thing, we are not very familiar with this role model and mentorship in research. Okay, this is a concept like, we have guides for our dissertation. So they can be our role model. So they can be our mentors also. So as a guide, the guide needs to be a role model, right? So guide it needs to exhibit these phenomena and these qualities in them to be a real role model. So institution needs to make way for that development and upliftment. Final thing, I'm about to finish the webinar. Here are the steps to organize your manuscript. You can see here, most of the time we start writing the manuscript, maybe from title or abstract, right? And that's not the way. Actually, it's quite an established concept here, proposed by one person from Elsevier.